Thank you for staying right here with us on Sunrise at Sea on CTV. My name is Apollo Sarah and welcome to the Twitter Jabs 2. Today on the Twitter Jabs 2, we continue the conversation on the legacy and reign of the longest serving monarch in British history, and that is Queen Elizabeth II. In studio with me is a friend to the show, social analyst and political analyst, Dr. Rogers Barigayome. Good morning, Dr. Rogers.
Morning, Sarah.
Thank you for
our viewers.
Yes, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yes, well, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, did pass away on 8th September 2022, and it's said that she passed away because she was suffering from episodic mobility problems that she started suffering from last year, and which forced her to limit and eventually withdraw from all her public engagements. Now, we have received a lot of, or rather seen a lot of heartfelt condolences and tributes to the Queen, but in equal measure we have seen a lot of people that have also displayed and taken the opportunity to share their detest for her. So my question for you, Dr. Barigayome, the first one, despite her being the longest serving monarch, what do you think was her most outstanding accomplishment?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, and our viewers. To be honest, her long-serving accomplishment was that she has been a model leader.
Yes.
And we know that the person who has passed on, the Queen, has been the longest serving kind of, I would say most important person.
Yes.
This is how I would take my statistics, because in her almost 70 years of reign,
yes,
if I could compare, the next kind of world leaders are, let's say, the popes, 8 popes who are men, 1 woman, 8 popes.
And she has outlived all of them.
Oh, yeah, and she has people who speak actually English. I counted the Commonwealth is 2.5 billion people,
yes,
about a third of the world. So she leads, she's been a leader of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
And English-speaking people are the most in the world.
Yes.
And those about 1.2. So many people who communicate using her language. Just here in Uganda, some of us cannot communicate to each other in our local dialect,
yes,
but we use English.
Yes.
So that is a tremendous achievement for
yes,
her. She has kept it, a woman keeping it for 70 years. It's an achievement. Hands up for women. They've shown that actually
yes,
they can be great leaders. And to be sincere, like for example, back in our country, we know we've been mentored, our leadership from independence had been mentored by the Queen,
yes,
from Britain.
Yes.
And credit is given to her because the leadership was more smooth after independence and even what we are seeing now. So I give credit to the Queen. She allowed the colonies to be independent,
yes,
to give themselves control, and she agreed to that. And so we give her credit for that. So she's been the model leader for these 70 years. We haven't seen any leader in equal measures.
Yes. Well, a number of people refuse to mourn her. A lot of people who come from countries that Great Britain did colonize. And there's one actual tweet on Twitter, on social media, that actually caused an absolute outroar, that even caused, Jeff Bezos to respond, that caused Piers Morgans to respond to it. And it's a tweet by a lady, she's a linguistic professor, called Uju Anya. And she goes on to say, I heard the chief monarch of a thriving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating.
Yeah, definitely that was a bit expected. In South Africa, for example, where there was apartheid,
yes,
everyone would, colonization, apartheid, they would try to put it onto the Queen.
Yes.
But if we see history, that these conquests were done by her forefathers, and it was basically the world order.
Yes.
I would put less blame on her. And actually, in my own perspective, I would say we are lucky we had a woman. You know, the feelings of women are different from men.
Yes.
If we didn't have the queen for those 70 years, I believe a king would have pressed on and would have seen colonization take longer, like we saw in South Africa, would have seen it longer in most of the African countries. These unfortunate events which happened, like for example, I see my second home in South Africa, I see many people say decolonization, they try to do away with most of the sort of British kind of colonial sentiments and the styles, but also we have a lot to learn from them.
Yes.
Because, for example, their succession is orderly.
Yes.
You can see it. And for 70 years, there's been no friction.
Yes.
The moment she died, we see a Prince Charles. But look at the African leaders who were mentored by these Britons and other colonial masters. They've not.
Yes.
As long as even when we say there are some things they did, oppression, took some of our minerals were taken, then slave trade. But later on, when we see their governance and the impact they had, even on us, Africa, is long-lasting and better than the impact our own African leaders have had on this continent.
Yes.
Clear succession, where it was known for about 70, would say 70 years that Charles will be the second.
Will be the next in line.
The next in line, and
Yes.
it is clear cut.
Yes.
Where the other thing I get is that the queen, a woman, could be allowed on the throne. We don't have that in our African culture, where a woman is stably in control for all these years.
Yes.
And can reign. Most of our heirs here, we don't give women. And for me, you know, when I got a good example, I take it on. I personally, I think, will make my first daughter, who is called Lisa, my heir. I mean, the queen has elaborated. Then the other thing which I also like is that this Charles would be taken to be a Greek. Actually, Charles and William would be taken to be Greek and Danish. Like, but yet it's normal in English culture to say, you know what, these people are Britons. Yet actually, if we are to use our own elements, you would say, no, these ones are Sudanese, these are Rwandese, they shouldn't rule us. You know, you saw in our last morning as a nation where people had funny sentiments about, but these are things which we should borrow from the Britons. Yes, there are some other things they took us through, but we should borrow the positive, especially when you have a 70-year stable monarch.
Exactly.
You should borrow some aspects, and these are the aspects we should borrow. And I give it to the reigning monarch here in Uganda, which seems to be from the NRM, and they are saying these people, we see projects coming that no, let succession be known.
Yes.
Why should you hide succession?
Exactly.
And let it be known, let it be planned. We are seeing a planned succession. Last night we saw Charles was non-disputable. Yes. And what people forget is that there have been also some failures. Because, for example, before King George, who is the father of the queen, before King George became there was King Edward. And he was made not to go to rule for long because he had ruled for 1 year and married a divorced woman, but for 2 years, and twice divorced. And in their culture, they are, because you've done this, you cannot. So there is a character. They have steps where, like, because of your character, you're not worthy.
Yes.
But here we see our society, they give us a character, and we are not mindful of the nation. But these people were royal, they are mindful of the kingship.
Yes.
You see the mentorship, they know if you're next in line, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you should be having a certain acceptable character. So if we are to borrow this as Africans, we have, and even as Ugandans, even because here there is tension, we've seen the most important person die and everything is normal. So here in Uganda, even we should embrace that even the most important person is going to die and everything should be normal, because there is that kind of tension.
Yes.
There is that tension in the country. No, he will die. It is, and we should take death to be normal. So him, the most important person, knows himself. And even the society knows he should die, but Uganda will continue.
That's true.
And succession should be orderly planned.
Exactly.
And there shouldn't be any tension if we plan. So this is a big lesson for you Ugandans, for us as a society.
Yes. And just to give more context on what you said, yes, Queen Elizabeth's reign and legacy wasn't without any scandal. From abdication, like you said, that was in 1952 when her uncle, that is King Edward VIII, did abdicate the throne because he was in love and he decided to marry a commoner and a divorcee at that. And then to divorce, he also got divorced, like you said. And then there's also accusations of racism against Meghan Markle after she sat down with Oprah Winfrey and did allege, I beg your pardon, that she was subjected to racism or racist comments by the royal family or by members and staff of the royal family. Well, she has, but one thing that she's really credited for is how she was weathering the various storms and scandals that, came into her family, and she went about them with a picture of poise amidst family dramas that made, for, a lot of juicy tabloid stories and whatnot. But let's talk about the Commonwealth. Well, and because the Commonwealth is characterized of 54 countries, isn't that right?
Yes.
Dr. Rogers, yes. And King Charles now III, and he is the King of the United Kingdom and King to 14 other Commonwealth realms, and he did ascend to the throne on the 8th of September upon the death of his mother, that is Queen Elizabeth II, and he was long-serving heir apparent in the British history, and he's the oldest person to assume the throne at the age of 73 years old. Now let me ask the question, do you think the Commonwealth will be as loyal to King Charles III as they were to their mother? Do you think he's going to be able to fill in her big shoes?
I think so, because I tell you that these British are very well organized.
Yes.
Charles was already sort of the patron. The mother knew he has to prepare the son, and he has been taking care of the Commonwealth affairs. And because everything is orderly,
yes,
there is no selfish intention like acquiring wealth, So the Commonwealth will still be royal, because remember the way the governance of the Commonwealth is that especially poor countries in the Commonwealth are the beneficiary, not the royal family.
Yes.
So the fact that they still need this benefit, they will still have to show the royalty to the British Kingdom.
Yes.
And I will want to tell you that because of their good kind of network, even nations like America should be part of the Commonwealth. The strongest nation, America, it should be, it's actually colony,
yes,
of Britain.
Yes,
they are just pretending we are, but you see, because of their kind of orderly succession, their kind of good planning. So because of this, Charles III will be able to assert himself. And because, the way they do it, they are ceremonial. They are not, if you see, they are so diplomatic. They don't say controversial issues. Have you ever seen anything controversial come out of the Queen? Have you seen it come out of Charles? No, they just take their role as ceremonial. So they make sure they get out of controversy.
Yes.
So because of that, it makes their leadership sort of pure and unadulterated.
Yes.
So that will make even Charles, even if it is Charles goes and William comes, they will always have their leadership well stamped on the Commonwealth. And the other people, the nations of the Commonwealth, will need this kind of leadership, because many at times our own leadership in our own country is not exemplary to their level.
Yes.
Most of these Commonwealth countries, I'll tell you the majority, like in Africa, we don't have this kind of exemplary leadership.
That's
where
true.
we see selfishness in our leadership. So in the end, the fallback position is sometimes to the royal or the royal family, and in this case, Charles is going to be honored by many members of the Commonwealth because what they see back home is undeserving.
Yes. Well, some people have gone ahead and blamed Africa's slow growth and progress and development on Britain's invasion and colonization. And some insist that the Queen is to blame for this. What do you have to say about that?
I would say partly they may be, what I believe in is they intercepted our development. If they had left us to develop naturally, would have been in the long run better, because you remember they are royal. We also had our kings. If you see the United Arab Emirates where the kingship is, there is more development. When they brought this kind of democracy to us and threw it to us, it has been destructive. If you see sort of like you know, for them, they kept the highest level. They had tried to do, like kingship is the highest level. Then these, because the kings were supposed to control politicians like it is in their place. Before she died, 3 days before, she had installed a prime minister. So it is like politics is above kingship. But here it was disrupted. These politicians who we call Bakopi don't know what to do. They come, they assert their politics on us, then with their selfishness, because remember the royals are trained. The royals are trained not to be selfish, not to be greedy. They've grown in this kind of wealth. They are used to it. But look at our African leaders. Wealth to them is destructive because they've never, many of them come from really bad background that they don't know how to handle wealth. They instead come and plunder the nation. Look at where the Queen died.
Yes.
A remote place. Any sick African leader cannot go up country, cannot die in their own country. We are seeing them die. They are beginning, but you see where they are dying, out of Uganda, out of the country, because they've neglected the health system. But because the Queen knew everywhere, she could go to Scotland, she could go anywhere and know that she can easily be treated. All the health facilities they use are the same as the locals use. So this kind, now to tell you that after 60 years of independence, you are still blaming the British. Who mentored? Because when they were giving up leadership, there was a level of mentorship of the Africans who are to come. Many of them had been educated back in their home. They gave them good systems. Talk of Kampala here. Kampala, a city of 300, their systems which they left are the ones still on, and our leaders have failed to plan, and now 60 years we are still blaming them. Yes, they had their also shortfalls, but right now the blame should be on our African leaders. And we shouldn't continue to blame the Queen. She did what she could. You agitated for independence. She gave you power. What have you done? What, for example, should be asking, what has the NRM government done for 40 years to get out of this situation of the Britons? But you cannot say you've had power in 40 years and you're still blaming someone who gave it to you. Who gave it to you?
60 years ago.
Yeah, so really, and you haven't touched it so much, you haven't impacted the healthcare, you haven't impacted the education. No, not that you haven't impacted. You are taking back the education system. Look at the rating of Markle University. They gave us Markle University, it was the best in Africa. Now you are taking it to over number 30 and you are saying that they are responsible. So we have sometimes to apportion blame to ourselves and give credit to our mentors. What they did is still available. You see Mulago Hospital, Makerere was in 60 years, Africans have not even duplicated Makerere University.
That is true. Well, to give you more context, well, Uganda became an independent sovereign state on 9th October 1962, and the British monarch, and that is Queen Elizabeth II, remained head of state as Queen of Uganda until the link with the British monarchy was severed. That was on 9th October 1963, and then the king, or rather Kabaka of Uganda, that is Sir Edward Mutesa II, became the first president of Uganda. Well, the direct British rule of the Uganda Protectorate ended in 1962 with the Uganda Independence Act, which granted independence of the protectorate under the name Uganda, but retained the British monarch, that is Queen Elizabeth II, as the nominal head of state and Queen of Uganda. Well, her constitutional roles as head of state were mostly delegated to the Governor General of Uganda, that was Sir Walter Coitus, who was the only holder of the office, and then Milton Obote held office as Prime Minister and head of government. And in 1963, Uganda adopted a new constitution which abolished the links with the British monarchy, and Uganda became a republic within the Commonwealth. However, the new Ugandan state was deliberately referred to as a state rather than a republic, and the constituent native kingdoms such as Buganda continued to exist. And the description state implied that the country was not a republic but instead a federation of tribal kingdoms. And following the proclamation of the state of Uganda on 9th October 1963, the Kabaka then, that was Kabaka of Buganda, that is King Edward Mutesa II, became the first president of Uganda, and Uganda did not become a republic until 1966 with Obote's conflict with President Kabaka Edward Mutesa II. Now let's talk about the relationship of Uganda and the British monarch. How has Uganda benefited from the Queen's reign, as Uganda is the first and last African country she visited and seemed to like, by the way? We even have a national park named after her.
Wow, I love that.
That is the Queen Elizabeth National Park.
Yes, we have a national park. She's been passionate about Uganda. She, as even the patron of the Commonwealth, was here, Chogam.
Yes.
At Serena, she loves our weather. I was at Entebbe Road and saw her enter Kampala in her, I think, a model Land Rover. And she's really loved Uganda.
Yes.
She came, basically, she been our mentor in leadership, and her liking of Uganda and is usually should be passionate. We've seen, like you say, the best park, Queen Elizabeth National Park. Wow, the people of Uganda, I believe, like the Queen, because, to be sincere, she's one sort of consistent leader we've seen from the time, I wouldn't say it's from the 1900,
yes,
when she was, even when we were a British protectorate, she was like the head of state for a long time. And then, like you gave the history, when she took, even after independence, she took on the role,
yes,
which, by the way, she's still taking care of it until her death in Canada, places like New Zealand, Australia.
Yes.
She's still
Ireland,
the head
yes,
of state.
Yes.
And if you see the nations where she stayed as head of state, they've been even more stable. If we had not taken away that privilege, would have been more stable as a country.
Yes.
When we took it away, you saw what Idi Amin did and Milton Obote. We accuse the British of plunder, and yes, I don't rule it out. But the same leaders, Idi Amin, the first chaos we had in our parliament was plundering resources from DRC Congo. Gold. Yes. Like I told you, these African leaders were not well trained, yes, mentored, that when they see wealth, they panic. And royals are trained to even behave when there is wealth. So the impact she has had, I've read people like Alaka, when the Queen came to Uganda, he was a person who was invited to be part of the dinner with the Queen. And these people are trained. He says, he said that he was told not to mention anything, not to ask for anything until she starts a conversation, until she offers, because you know, for us, our African kind of mentality, always begging, give us this, give us. But royalty was like, she's sensible enough to know what this is, what a leader should be doing. He's supposed to be sensible enough to know what the community need.
Yes.
You don't need to see our president and everywhere. We don't have this. The leader, him, if he's a true leader, he should know that when he visits Kabong, he should know that here the educational service is poor.
Yes.
People, he should know the poverty level. People should not just beg him.
Yes.
So that leadership was felt. And he tried to mentor the first kings, like the Kabaka of Uganda. If you see our iconic buildings,
Yes.
look at Namirembe Cathedral. I won't talk about Lubaga, but look at places like Namirembe Cathedral. Look at Twekobe, the kingdom. Look at Twekobe, the place of the king, the palace of the king Mutebi.
Yes.
All these were borrowed from the queen, and they were built as they are in Britain. So the impact is still felt in Uganda. We are going to feel it. If history is well told, our grandchildren are going to see it. Our great-grandchildren are going to see it. We would say the biggest part of Kampala we see is because of the Queen. Even go to Kololo. I wouldn't, and for me, I won't want to be like the South African to see that we decolonize. If you see like our streets, Prince Charles. This is the impact they did. What I'm saying, if also our African leaders get the same impact, like I see in Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta Airport. Yes, we have other facilities. Let's name them. Let's have a Yoweri Museveni Airport.
Yes.
But we should see this from our leaders. Let the impact, let them serve with want a legacy.
Yes.
Right now we see our African leaders, our Ugandan leaders want to serve as if they don't care about their legacy. And they are forcing themselves on the people.
Yes.
The Queen never forced herself on. It was a automatic impact, automatic leadership that even when you go to Markle University, wherever you go, you see the impact of the Queen on even our street.
Yes.
I was in Kenya recently. I would see the impact of Jomo Kenyatta. In Kenya, iconic building named after him. I want to see the impact of Yoweri Museveni. Positive impact, not the impact of forcing yourself on the people. But let us see it, because we've seen it. His impact is there. But he should try to protect the legacy like the Queen does, and show us a transition and plan his transition, because he's not going to live forever.
Yes.
And these the radicals in NRM should forget about that. They should know there is a time for the end of everyone, and right now we've seen a lesson. We should start planning our transition.
Exactly. Well, Commonwealth countries such as Kenya, Malawi, and Rwanda did declare days of mourning after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. And the Commonwealth countries, that is Rwanda, Kenya, and Malawi, are flying their flags at half-mast in honor of the Queen. And Rwanda's president, that is His Excellency Paul Kagame, did say that Commonwealth is Queen Elizabeth's biggest legacy. And it's also said that no African heads of state have yet confirmed if they will be attending the Queen's state funeral. Well, Rwanda, Kenya, and Malawi did declare days of mourning following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And in a statement, President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who is the current chair in office of the Commonwealth, said that he was honoring the Queen, whose legacy was the group comprised of 54 nations. And he went on to say, and I quote, "We we recall the 70 years of stewardship to the Commonwealth of Nations. That is what he said. And he went on to say, he also added that the Rwandan national flag, as well as flag of the East African community, will fly at half-mast until the Queen is buried. Well, Queen Elizabeth's state funeral is expected to take place at Westminster Abbey. That is approximately 10 days after her passing. She passed away on 8th September 2022, and she'll be buried on the 19th of September 2022. And Malawi's president, that is His Excellency Lazarus Chakwera, also said that the flags will fly at half-mast for 10 days as a mark of respect for Her Majesty, the Queen. And the outgoing president, that is President His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, also said that the national flag will be flown at half-mast for 4 days that began on Friday and will end today, Monday. Well, the Queen is still the head of state in 15 Commonwealth realms, and those include Antigua and Barbuda, also in Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, and there's Canada, there's Grenada, there's Jamaica, there's New Zealand, there's Papua New Guinea, there's St. Kitts, and there's Nevis, and then there's St. Lucia, and there's St. Vincent and Grenadines, and Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, and the United Kingdom. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, so Dr. Rogers, parting shots. And I would like to ask you this question, the last one. How has Uganda benefited from Queen Elizabeth's reign? As I already asked you this question, as she's the first and last, it was the last country in Africa that she did visit. But parting shots, what would you like people to remember the Queen for?
Yeah, first of all, I want to add credit. Rwanda has done it. Uganda should come, because you see, Rwanda was francophone, but because of that good model, they came to Commonwealth, and they've really seen the benefits of Commonwealth. So Ugandans should remember the Queen, and that's why we, besides their shortfalling, every leadership, especially if it was 70 years,
yes,
it has a shortfalling. But we should start celebrating people, even in death. We should know that this leader, the Queen, gave us leadership and mentored. And my parting shot is, let us start the culture, yes, of celebrating our leaders. Even if it is Idi Amin, let's start celebrating his leadership, because there are some good attributes Idi Amin did to Ugandans. Milton Obote, the father of our nation, should be celebrated. Yoweri Museveni should be good enough for him, he's still listening. He should work on his legacy, and he should be celebrated by Ugandan as we celebrate the Queen, because she is a mentor of all of them. She has talked to all of them, all our 9 presidents, one-on-one. So I'm saying, as we celebrate the Queen, let us start having a culture of copying good, first of all, aspects, and celebrating leadership and our leaders. Us in Labour Party, by the way, originates from Britain.
Yes.
And so we saw good aspects about the labor union, the way they deal with it in Britain, and we say we can replicate this.
Yes.
And we've had leaders who have been heads of state of Labour Party in the United Kingdom. And so what we are saying is, let us have an orderly kind of transitional leadership like we saw last night being, and a few days in Britain. And this conversation, Uganda should learn from, and let us celebrate all our leaders when they are still alive and
yes,
when they are dead. And let also the leaders try to plan their transition,
yes,
by recruiting. Because you see the Queen, what she did when we asked for independence, she started identifying good leaders in Uganda, and that's how she identified people like Milton Obote, all the rest,
yes,
our independent leaders, Benedicto Kiwanuka, and they started being exposed to take up leadership. But I see our own leaders, see some of leaders, even like me, and they totally want to destroy you. You get it? Here we have a culture of killing the best.
Yes.
Someone saying, coming and saying that there will not be no opposition. I want to kill everyone in opposition.
Yes.
I want to kill the opposition platform. To hell with that. That is not good leadership. Instead, mentor for the future.
Exactly.
So that is the legacy of the Queen. It mentored all our leaders. Let them also mentor the future leaders of Uganda.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers Barigoyomesh, for joining me on the Twitter Jabs. And we were discussing the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. Stay right here on Sunrise at Sea because more is coming up. Don't blink.
As the Commonwealth continues to mourn the death of Queen Elizabeth II, we go back to the time when the Queen was hosted by President Yoweri Museveni in Uganda for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting CHOGM in 2007. The event, which was held at the Kampala Serena Conference Center, saw various guests led by the Queen of England and President Yoweri Museveni make their way to the venue. The guests were then entertained as a troupe of dancers showcased various traditional dances. Some of the delegates who attended the 2007 CHOGM meeting included then Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore, Wong Kan Seng, and the then British Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, plus leaders from the 53 countries that form the Commonwealth. President Yoweri Museveni, who was the chairman of the Commonwealth, would be seen standing side by side with Queen Elizabeth II and Commonwealth Secretary General Don McKinnon. During the summit, the leaders would go on to suspend Pakistan for failing to lift the state of emergency and end military rule, and the British monarchy and its former colonies would then address the dozens of presidents and prime ministers who had gathered in Kampala for the three-day summit.
Ago, Papua New Guinea and the Seychelles were welcomed as its 32nd and 33rd members. Since then, our association has continued to attract new members while addressing the great preoccupations and concerns of our times.
Before the meeting, the Queen had gone on to embark on different visits.
Africa.
It was a colorful procession then as the Queen made her way to Chitante Hill Primary School ahead of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip would then be welcomed by then Minister for Education and Sports, Namirembe Mitamaziri, and the head teacher of Chitante Hill Primary School before embarking on a brief tour to learn about Uganda's culture and art. As the world continues to mourn the death of Queen Elizabeth II and the rise of King Charles III, after 70 years of service to the crown, her visit to Uganda to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in November 2007 in Kampala will always be remembered for its color and the beauty that it presented. Suhail Mugawi, CTV, PM Edition.
The principal purpose of which was to open the...
Well, thank you for staying tuned to Sunrise at Sea right here on CTV. I had a wonderful time with you. And just before I leave, I just want to share some few facts about Queen Elizabeth. Well, she was born on April 21st, 1926 at exactly 2:40 a.m. And she was crowned Queen on the 2nd on June in 1953. Well, she is the longest reigning monarch ever in British history, and she has served for 70 years and 214 days approximately. And as Queen, she was served by 15 UK Prime Ministers, including Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, and Boris Johnson, and now Liz Truss. Well, she was the only person in the UK allowed to drive without a license. And this was because she was the one who issued the license was issued in her name, so there was no need for her to be given one. She also was the only state of head that flew around the country without a passport. Well, Queen Elizabeth II also had 2 birthdays. Her actual birthday is the 21st April, and her official birthday was held on Saturday in June when the weather is better. So, like every other lady. Well, her birthplace is now a fancy Continental restaurant, and Queen Elizabeth II first sent an email in 1976. Imagine that. And it was published on Instagram in an Instagram post in 2019. Well, her hobbies did include horse riding, pigeon racing, and football. And she was also an Arsenal supporter. So to all the Arsenal fans out there, yes, the Queen was also a supporter of Arsenal. Well, Queen Elizabeth also became a homeowner at just 6 years old. And when people of Wales gifted her a house in the grounds of Windsor's Royal Lodge, it was named Weybridge, which means little cottage. And in her lifetime, Queen Elizabeth II sent around 50,000 Christmas cards. Yes, she did. And she also served in World War II as a truck mechanic. Yes, what a phenomenal woman. And it's very interesting how you see a woman so majestic, a queen, also just have normal people hobbies and habits, and she's just another person like anybody else. Well, may her soul rest in eternal peace. She definitely was somebody to remember. And that is all I had for you on this segment of Sunrise at Sea. Stay tuned, because we'll be back again tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. My name is Apple Asara. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you make wise choices, and I hope you remember to tell the people in your life that you love them, because this thing called death is very permanent. So let the people that you love know that you love them. Okay, until tomorrow, have a blessed day and follow SOPs. Bye-bye.